Selectmen meeting to order, starting with a roll call from my left. Jim Hussey. Jim Ralston. Ron Morgan. Chester Duraki.
Paul Sanders.
Okay, we have a forum, and the meeting is being recorded. Let's see. First item on the agenda is under appointments. We have Mr. Rich Collins of Post Road has requested to be appointed to our Conservation Commission. And there you are. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you sure you really want to do this one?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right. Would you like to say a few things to the board?
Just that I'm involved in conservation. I've been in Greenland for 8 years plus. I live in on 300 Post Road in what they call Dunk Brackett's house. So I don't know, there's good karma there for a lot of people. Maybe not everybody, but I'm involved enough with conservation that I see the town growing, and I just want to see what's going on. Nothing, no particular agenda, just kind of want to get involved, hear what's going on. I care about the Great Bay a lot, and that's really it. If anybody wants to know more, happy to talk more. But
Okay.
a general interest in seeing what goes on in our conservation community, which I know is mostly trails and trail work and small but important projects.
Good. Anybody here on the board like to grill them?
Say grill or drill.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to appoint Rich Collins, Conservation Commission. His appointment will expire March 2022.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, I'd like to thank you for volunteering your time. And we appreciate people that volunteer in this town. It's a big volunteer town. So thank you and welcome aboard. And by the way, you need to be sworn in.
Yeah.
Oh, she's already told me.
My ear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is the approval of the minutes from February 18th.
Move to approve the minutes of Monday, February 18th, 2019, as written.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, under old business, we have the Copley update.
The only update I have right now is that the DES a couple weeks ago put out some proposed rulings at 38 parts per trillion for PFOA, with a 70 for PFOS and 70 combined for those two chemicals. They had a recent press release last week that they are looking closer at those numbers and maybe presenting something different.
Okay. Anything from your angle?
Nothing further, no.
No? Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the week's library Cypre petition update. I believe Attorney Laughlin has received a response from the Department of Justice Division of Charitable Trust. I'll ask Paul to interpret.
Sure, when we were taking a look at Peter Laughlin's proposed Cypre petition, if you take a look at paragraph 16 and 17, it went through such title as they've been able to figure out as to who owned the property. And the chain of title stopped at Carolyn Weeks. There never was a deed into the town of Greenland. And so I did a little bit of research. I first contacted Peter, and he hadn't gotten back to me, and so I stopped at the registry and did some quick research, and I found the estate of Carolyn Weeks. And it turned out that she had passed away a matter of months after the gift of the building to the town at the 1898 town meeting. And in that particular will, it was a very long and complex one for the time, because she was, for that time, quite a wealthy person. There was no devise of the real estate to the town of Greenland. There was only the creation of a $2,000 charitable trust. Within the context of the will, that money to be used for the upkeep of the building. There was no other mention of the library at all. And the residuary clause gave the rest and remainder of her estate to 2 nieces and 2 nephews, only one of whom was a resident of Greenland. And so that's where title on the record stops right now.
Right. And the inventory, the charitable trust had reported that the inventory of her assets of her estate did not include that property.
That's also correct. Because when you file a probate estate, it's not just the will, there's also an inventory of all the property that the person had. And the inventory of the property contained her homestead, which is now what we think of as the Underwood property up on Bayside. But there was no mention of the Weeks Library property at all. So, as we all know, there's only two ways property can pass. It can pass by means of a deed, or it can pass through an estate. In that particular circumstance, it didn't do either one. And so record title, it would appear, is in these four heirs, the nieces and nephews that would have the residuary of the estate. Now, that's four individuals who were named in 1898. Which means that we have 120 years of additional history and either 5 or 6 generations to go through to try to figure out who might be the record owner of that real estate today. And it could be any number of people, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. So, frankly, from the standpoint of clearing title, it couldn't get much worse. It couldn't get much worse. But as it sits right now, the town has no record title. We have heard back from the Director of Charitable Trusts indicating that they believe that a charitable trust was created by means of a gift that was given to the town, accepted at town meeting in 1898. But they also believe that a quiet title action is required in order to vest title to the real estate in the town. So that is what really has to happen first, because you can't really modify a charitable trust until you know what the charitable trust is acting upon. And at this point, the only thing it really has to act upon is the $2,000 gift to the town back in 1898, plus whatever interest we may have in the building, which might be simply tenancy. We just don't know. And so that's the action that's going to have to happen first.
Okay, that's the next step to take.
Yep.
Marcia, do you have any?
Yes, sir, I do.
Question.
Marcia McLaughlin, 47 Nantucket Place. Our library director, Denise Grimsey, has done a cursory look through some genealogy records and stuff, but it's just in the short time that we have had since this came to surface, there's much more that is going to have to be done in order to follow all of these people and their lineages and that sort of thing. So we're working on it.
It's a daunting task.
It is.
Okay,
But we've started on it.
all right, good.
And I think one of the gists is the Cypre can't include, or shouldn't include the quiet title in the one document. The one court ruled in another town that they needed to separate it.
Separate that.
So the filing of the Cypre and the petition for quiet title could be simultaneous, separate documents.
Okay.
And I think the reasoning behind that is the judge will say, I don't know what to modify till I know what you have.
Sure. All right, so Marcia, you'll be working with the next board on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. Liaison reports, any?
Nothing to report from Rick.
Yep, I have nothing.
This is good. It's going to be a quick meeting. I like it. One of my last meeting, be a quick one. Okay, under any other old business, somebody would like to bring up?
Yes, under the letter that you submitted to the PDA, I would just like to go on record thanking you for your work, and I noticed that the papers that I was reading as I got back from vacation, that we now have a seat on the board, and I'm sure it's...
I don't think
Not
we have a
quite,
seat.
no.
Yeah,
Not quite.
not quite?
No, not quite.
It's
The
gotta go
bill
to
has been filed. It needs to go through that legislative
Reading the
process.
portion of Harold,
But it's.
Yeah, you jumped ahead.
Make it way.
Yeah.
That's good.
Dennis Malloy.
Yeah.
It needs to go to the Senate. The House approved it. Go to the Senate.
And yes, Vaughn, thank you very much. But what was unfortunate is the Portsmouth Herald itself wrote an editorial saying that Greenland did not need this
We
seat.
don't deserve it, yeah.
And of course, is there anyone from the Herald here? No.
Of course not.
Let the record show that there's no one here from the Herald.
Okay, anybody else have any other old business they'd like to bring up? I'll bring up one thing, at the last meeting. Yes,
Hi, Colleen Panacho, 86 Tidewater Farm Road, and sorry, this is old business from this meeting. So or not the cypre, this quiet title petition is gonna go forward. So what does that mean for the rest of the building process, design process?
I believe what that means is that we can't do anything until we find out who owns this land. I mean, you can't start building on land you don't know who owns it, so I think everything is coming to a kind of a screeching halt until we can clear that up. Is that?
Yes.
Okay? Yes.
Would adverse possession, does that not work in the case of?
We've talked about that, but we don't see any adversity here, so,
Nobody has objected to us using the land for the library for all these 100 years.
right. It's been used just the way it was supposed to be used, so. But we did touch on that subject. Anybody else? Okay, I'll bring up one thing. I know at the last meeting, Mr. Rugg had brought up the issue that Mr. Cyphers might want to sell some land to the town. Mr. Cyphers said, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, the land in question is owned by his daughter and his son and belongs to the house in the back. The Vets Hall actually has a 20-foot easement over the driveway.
Yep. Okay, so we can put that to rest. Under new business, we have a library resignation and appointment. Let's see, what do we have here?
Yeah, Jonathan Dowling has moved. He is submitting a letter of resignation. His term expires in 2020, and the library trustees would like to appoint Eileen Bischoff to serve the remainder of his term. Normally, an appointment for a resignation is filled until the next election. Because the filing period for the next election had already closed for 19, they can fill it through March of 20.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion.
I move to accept the resignation of Jonathan Dowling, library trustee, and appoint Eileen Bischoff to serve until March 2020.
Second. I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Is Eileen Bischoff here?
No, she had, again, Marcia McLaughlin,
Yeah.
she had a conflict tonight. She said she would try to get here, but obviously she was unable to.
Okay, Margie, would you let her know that she needs to talk to Marge and be
Yeah,
sworn in
I have
also?
already told her, but I'll let her know that she was actually appointed.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next item is a bond reduction.
Yeah, this is a request from River Valley Dorado Investments to release the bond that we're holding. Altus Engineering is recommending the bond reduction of $250,400, and the amount that the town would retain is $89,600. We note that the connection from Bernita Drive is now openly being used, and police and fire have had some concerns with the gate. Whether or not it works from both sides, one side, they can't get out, whether it's too slow, too fast. Well, not too fast, too slow.
Okay, that can be on the docket to be resolved, Tara, if you,
Yes.
it is, okay. Okay, any questions?
Do we want to hear from anyone at all? We have Altus's recommendation. I don't know if the people here from Dorado Investments like to argue for or against that particular proposal.
I think we're okay with that number. We know there's some work left to do. It's outlined in Eric's memo, and we'll be responding to it once the spring comes.
Okay,
A lot of things are weather dependent,
all right, good.
on final review and everything.
Okay. A motion.
I move to approve the bond reduction in the amount of $250,400 in the Bramble Valley Age-Restricted Housing Development, as recommended by Altus Engineering. The town will retain $89,600.
Second.
A motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a letter here to the Department of Transportation.
This is a letter that we received notifying us, and we received it late. It's a February 11th letter, but unfortunately it got sent to the town of Plymouth. It was probably just in their envelope as well, but so they just forwarded it to us, so we had just received it last week. Telling us basically that they, based on limited pedestrian activity, they were going to remove the crosswalk and related pedestrian signal at the intersection of Route 33 and Post Road. Now, this is the crosswalk and signal that goes basically Dunkin' Donuts, catty corner across to the Vets Hall.
Correction. You said Post Road, it should be Portsmouth Avenue.
Portsmouth Ave, yes, I'm sorry. I wrote Portsmouth Ave, this cut and Post down here. You're right, Portsmouth Ave. I've heard from a couple of people that we should request that they maintain that crosswalk and signal. Every year there is a road race in that area. There's also a bicycle race that comes up and crosses. I haven't seen individuals during the day use it, but I do know we have those two events.
Unlike the state of New Hampshire, I'm around on weekends, and that's when it gets used a lot.
Right.
My personal opinion, I think number one, they should maintain it, and also they've had two chances to bring it up to ADA standards, and never did it either one. I'd like to see them bring it up to ADA standards also. So at least someone that has difficulty mobility can push the button. Right now they can't.
So add that to our request that they maintain
That's
it?
my recommendation. I don't know anybody else.
And I've seen people use it too.
Greenland's become more and more walking. It's surprising. So
Yeah.
On either side, there's things that attract children to go to, whether it's Hudson Soda
exactly.
or Dunkin' Donuts and the roast beef place.
Okay. Any other discussion? Chip, you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that move the request of crosswalk Route 33 and Portsmouth Ave be repainted, upgraded to ADA standards, and maintained by the DOT due to the amount of usage it receives. It's important for pedestrian safety.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I would just suggest when you write your letter to DOT that you please have Tara sign it if that's what you agree to.
You want to write it?
Sure.
Because, unless it actually comes from the police chief.
Right, we're not going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Basically, nothing's changed.
Okay, that was crosswalk removal. Then we have a letter to the Department of Transportation, parking on Route 151.
This was put on, no, this was a discussion, was a request by Mr. McDevitt from the planning board that the Board of Selectmen consider sending a letter to DOT to eliminate parking on Route 151 Post Road, but between Weeks Library and the Parish House.
Okay. Any ideas on that? Any discussion on it?
Well, to the extent that the parking is out on the state right away, they control the particular issue. And so it really we don't have any say over what it is they would like to do. If they think that it is not appropriate to have parking there, then the parking would stop. Obviously, we can't speak for what the parish house might decide to advocate for, because that's their own property. But And now we know we can't even advocate for the library property because we don't have that.
Right.
But again, this is DOT right away. So we would just simply concur with the planning board's effort to have it reviewed.
Okay. Yes, Tim?
You just had a thing from the DOT saying they want to get rid of their right of way and their crosswalk, and you told them no, and you want this. So I do think you can tell them no, and we like this. I don't see where you can separate the two. They're the same thing.
Except, Tim, that we don't like it.
Well, no, you don't like it.
I have a question for the chief. How many accidents in the last 5 years have we had from people parking?
Probably only 2, as far as serious accidents. We might have a couple other very small ones, but we get reports all the time about almost misses and almost drove off the road and did drive off the road to miss somebody and things like that.
Because I do know that DOT has this real issue, especially Division 6. They want nothing in their right of way. They don't want parking, they don't want curbing, they want nothing.
I thought you just wrote a report, and I read it, that there was nothing in 5. I thought I have a copy of your report somewhere that they had asked about traffic problems there, and it didn't list any accidents or any. I'll have to go look.
I don't think that, I think that was in the last couple of years. We probably have only a couple in the last 5 years. I can think of one that's pretty severe, but, you know, in the grand scheme of things, compared to 33, it's very little. But I do think it's extremely unsafe, just in the fact of the speed there, the curve, backing out onto a state Route 151, you know, the school, the whole thing it's just a recipe for disaster.
Well, I was looking at that the other day, and actually I've looked at it many times, but it seems to me that if it was just parallel parking, I don't see what the big deal is.
I agree. Get like 4 spaces right on the side and be fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's been that way since I was a kid, and that's a long time ago. And I don't remember any big crashes because of the thing. It would be more of the backing out. Yeah, I can see where that might be a problem, but I think if parallel parking, I know when I go there, I just pull in parallel. I've got plenty of room to open up the car door and walk 2 or 3 feet past that to even get out near the roadway. So I just don't think it's necessary. I think it's going to be an inconvenience to the older people that want to go to the library or even to the parish house when the library isn't in use. That's my opinion.
Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
Steve Smith. This came before the planning board years ago. I think it was the church in front. Actually, there is a fire lane in front of that building. It has been painted before as a fire lane in front of the parish hall. It's not maintained, but that's how the planning board set it up, was if you want to maintain a fire lane in front of that building, sidewalk, I mean, there's only, maybe 5 feet in front of that building from the sidewalk in, and it was set up as a fire lane. So it might be something to look at, that it was set up as a fire lane, at least in front of the parish hall, not the library.
My opinion is that the car count has gotten so big that times have changed so much. That's just, I think it's unsafe. Even in parallel, they're gonna put your blinker on and look over your shoulder and then pull out. At certain times, that road is crazy. And like the school, the kids, it's just a matter of time before it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 bad accidents.
I don't think we let it get to 8, 10, 12 bad accidents before we acted.
Well, I mean, so let's just act now then. That's the argument. Well, I hate to lose the parking that they have, but it's unsafe. I mean, when I lived over here and walked my kids to school, you had to walk out in the road or up on the grass, and with a stroller and stuff, it wasn't that easy. Because the cars would head in park and then you couldn't travel on the sidewalk.
Well, that's why I'm suggesting it be parallel parking.
Right, I just don't. How many are you gonna get? 3? 2?
Oh, I'd say 4 or 5.
Yeah. And And then all the safety hazards and problems, we need the fire lanes, that's what I'm at.
Laura?
I'd just like to say, as a resident of Laura Virgo, Caswell Drive, as a simple resident of Greenland, I'm sorry when you start to say, oh, there's so much traffic out in front. You have a town like Exeter, you have a town like Portsmouth. They have parallel parking on either side of very busy roads, and people are responsible enough to be able to look over their shoulder, and no one wants to have a car wreck. No one, I'm not saying there aren't irresponsible people out there, but no one wants to have a car wreck. No one wants the insurance hassle. You look before you pull out, and if there's a lot of cars, you're more apt to look. I would argue that it's when there's relatively few cars that people just pull out and end up in an accident. When there's a lot of cars, they're going to be more responsible.
Right.
So that's just.
Point taken, but to me, the risk isn't worth the reward.
I think that if you've got parallel parking there, pulling out when it's angled parking is kind of problematic. But when you've got parallel parking, you can look out front, you can look to the side, you can look to the back. Doesn't seem to be as much of a problem. People park in tight spots all the time, all over the place.
Okay, Tara, what is your take?
I agree with what she's saying about Exeter. The problem is you can't compare apples to oranges, is that area isn't a business area, and it's also a state route, so it doesn't go down to 25 miles an hour the whole time. You know what I mean? People aren't expecting, the businesses and the this and the that. The only thing that's over there is the library. I'm not saying it's worst case scenario by any means, but as far as people do speed through there, even when we run radar, people speed through there because it is residential that's set off the road and they feel like it's a state route, and once they get past the school, if they slow down for the school, which I hope, then, they're not really looking for that. So I do think the angled parking is definitely much, much worse. To Jim's point, I've only seen someone parallel park there if they're the only car there. And it's like they're pulling in and they're doing something quickly and coming back out. It's always angled. So I guess I can't really speak to what the parallel parking will look like because I haven't really seen it very much. There are always people, and sometimes there'll be a parallel park and then a couple of angled as well. It's kind of a free-for-all.
I would say that the problem is it's not delineated.
Of course.
And if it was, then there would be parallel parking and people wouldn't pull in at an angle.
Right, but would they pull up onto the sidewalk because we don't really have a granite curbing. So I have some concerns. I'd be willing to look at it if, you know what I mean, if somebody wants to go out or if DOT wants to come out and look at it with me. I'd be more than happy to look at that, measure it out, see what it looks like.
That would be.
But I would say that the angled parking is I agree with Chester that it's, the risk doesn't.
I probably wouldn't argue that
Okay.
point, but I think the parallel parking would be.
All right, let's go out there. Is it Division 6 or is it someone else?
Division 6.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll contact them and see if there's a time that they can come out and we can work together.
All right, and we'll table this to a later meeting. Okay, franchise agreement.
The franchise agreement with Comcast is expiring in April. And last year, we spent quite a bit of time working on it, and then they gave us an extension because we weren't ready to move forward. So when they came to me last week to see if the board wanted to sign it for this year, I requested that they give us another extension.
Okay.
So that a new board and a new administrator can spend some time delving into that contract.
Okay.
Based on that, I'd like to move we approve a one-year extension of the franchise agreement with Comcast.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion passes. All right, the RPC electricity aggregation.
Yeah, this was requested to put on the agenda that the Rockingham Planning Commission is forming an electricity supply aggregation for municipal school and county facilities. And as a group, generally, you can buy electricity less expensive. Greenland is currently under contract with Taylor Energy until 2022. We go to an annual auction to obtain lower costs. We started this in 2011, and we're in a consortium with Northampton, Rye, and Greenland joined together. So we already do it. We can look at, we can express an interest to Rockingham Commission to move forward, but we would have to then immediately sever our relationship with Taylor Energy.
Okay.
I think what they're doing is they're looking to do the same thing that we already did.
Okay, all right.
Are there penalties if we were to sever with Taylor Energy?
I didn't dig deep into it. Liability for breach. Just says compensate the non-defaulting party for all losses and damages.
That often is their profits for the remainder of the term of the contract,
Right.
so they're
We don't
probably,
pay Taylor direct. Taylor gets their money from whoever is the low bid. And it's the same way that Rockingham Planning Commission has signed on with a similar company. Who did they say they signed on with? That they've hired a company, same type of company. What did I just see their name? Hill Energy Services. So they signed on with Hill Energy Services, which would then, and the total cost of these services for them is not to exceed $8,000. So they do it by a flat rate that would be assessed to each of the communities based on their utility usage. Ours is done based on a percentage of the kilowatt price. So it's up to the board if you want to move forward and join in with Rockingham County or stay with what you have until 2022.
I think the motion to express an interest is in order.
Okay.
Maybe without making a commitment.
well, I'd be cautious. I'm just looking quickly.
Go ahead.
This is on the Taylor one. If the buyer executes an energy-related agreement outside of Taylor services, buyer shall be liable for all monetary damages, including direct, indirect, financial, and consequential associated with the default.
Okay. This wouldn't be signing the agreement, but this is to
Oh, I-
express an interest,
yeah,
I
right?
understand,
But
but
it's good to keep that.
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I think that they're trying to do what we've already done. And like this year, our electricity is coming through Next Era. Last year it was JEXA. They go to auction annually and get the best price they can for the three communities.
Okay. So is this something if we were in the future would like to look into, or?
In the future, maybe, we're already on the contract.
Yeah.
I think we should just wait till 2020 and
And I hate paying attorneys to make money,
Yeah.
get us out of trouble.
All right.
I'm
Okay.
fine staying where we are.
We're just ahead of the curve.
Right, exactly. Okay. Abatements.
All right, we have two abatements that the assessor has processed. We received several more prior to the deadline, which was March 1st. So I think there's 6 more that are on Todd's desk to review, but these are 2 that were ready. One is, he is not recommending, and this is for 25 Shore Drive. He's recommending an abatement denial based on the value he feels is appropriate for the neighborhood. The property owner was concerned because he had no change in his house in 5 years, and his increase was 20%. But Todd did review it and felt that the value was correct. So that's the abatement denial. And the abatement being recommended is for 158 Dearborn Road in the amount of $150. The assessor went out there and did agree that a change was warranted in the grade and style of the property. But while he was there, he did note that central air conditioning had been added, and there were 5 bedrooms instead of 4. So there were some pluses and some minuses, so he is recommending a value reduction of $9,500, which would result in $150 plus interest in the abatement.
Okay. Any comments or input from the board? Okay, entertain a motion. 2 motions.
Move to approve the abatement of 158 Dearborn Road, map R12, 28, in the amount of $150 plus interest as recommended by the assessor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Second motion.
I move to deny the abatement for 25 Shore Drive, map R1824, as recommended by the assessor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Okay, does anybody have any other new business they'd like to bring up?
We have a veterans credit application that came in
Okay.
after the agenda had closed. But rather than wait 2 weeks, so we can get these, everything up to date.
Okay.
This is for a resident of 32 Cherry Hill Drive who qualifies for the All Veterans Credit for service dates between 1963 and 1969.
Okay, motion?
Move to approve the veterans credit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Anybody else have any other new business they'd like to bring up?
Tim Collins?
No.
No,
No.
okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I believe 2 weeks, I don't know, two times in the last week, the town of Greenland has broken RSA 65944:A electioneering. I believe the mailer you sent out was illegal. It didn't list that it was Article 2 or a warrant article. It didn't tell you that it was 2.9 million. It didn't say you had to do DES because you're gonna mess with the wetlands. It didn't say you need a variance because you're gonna be building too close to private property. It didn't say any of the negatives, only the positive. It talked about future expansion. It didn't tell you that you have to buy the neighbor's property before you can do the future expansion. So basically, you sold it as a sales pitch, which is illegal to use with taxpayers' dollars. That was number one. Number two was on dump day, a fireman in fire gear on town property was delivering the same thing, which being on town property and doing it's illegal, being with town fire gears doing illegal, the whole thing is illegal.
Well, I think there are some people who would disagree with you on that.
Okay,
But,
but there was a complaint filed with the Attorney General's office, and they were also asked to monitor our election because there's been so much of this where, like, we also didn't have the police or fire asked about that because you can't drive a SWAT vehicle around that, but you had to ask them about that in the library. You can't drive a fire truck around that, and you didn't ask that, but you did the library. So there's been a lot brought up that you setting two different standards, and it's just not right. People take notice.
Okay, all right, your comments are noted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes,
Hi, Chuck Murphy, 73 Boxwood Path.
yes.
Can I just get clarification on the Dorado bond reduction? According to the January 31st Altus engineering report, it states Altus recommended that the total bond amount held by the town be reduced to no less than $124,000. Did I hear you say $89,000?
Yes.
I thought you were accepting their report, though.
No, actually, something else, this is, you get this one?
Maybe not.
That's the latest.
That's the latest one.
That may make it easier for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Somebody else? Dennis?
Dennis Malloy, I just want to thank everybody on the select board, and Karen and others, and Tara and Marge, for all of your input for my work in the State House. It makes it a lot easier. And I particularly want to recognize Paul for work on behalf of Greenland in the State House and paying a lot of attention to what's going on there and teaching me things. Many years ago, when I was a selectman in Barrington, he taught me everything I needed to know about Class 6 roads.
He taught a lot of people.
I say that to this day, so I appreciate that service. And Vaughn, I really appreciate your testimony on behalf of Greenland for our petition to put a seat on the PDA. I think it made a world of difference. People sat up and paid attention. They wanted to hear from the chair of the select board, and they did. And I want to thank you for your effort on that, because it meant everything. So I just wanted to say thank you for your service as you would go away, because it's been very helpful for me, and I hope I've been helpful for you.
Well, I would like to thank you in return for, Dennis has been just about every single one of our select board meetings. We almost consider him a selectman here, but being our state representative, you've done a great job for Greenland. And I'm not even of your political affiliation, but I'll go with you any day. You've done a great job.
It's about what we do for the town.
Yeah, you're doing a great job for it.
You'll have a chance next week.
Yeah. And this being my last meeting, I'd like to say that I've been honored to serve as your selectman for the last 9 years. It's been a pleasure to work with the various boards, committees, and commissions, and a real privilege to work with all the department heads and all the employees of this town that make this town run as smoothly as it does. They do a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't see, but they do a great job with that. And I want to wish Karen the best in her future endeavors. She's been a big asset to the board. We really appreciate the effort you put forth. Okay? And I'd also like to commend Paul, who's also stepping down this year. And through his knowledge of municipal law, as you say, and his common sense approach to a lot of the issues, he's been a valuable asset to not only this board, but all the various boards that he served on over the last umpteen years. It's been quite a few of them. And it's been my pleasure to serve with you. I really appreciate that.
Well, and I'd like to say thank you for everyone for your kind words. It has been a long period of time that I've done this. I think I moved here in 1982, and I think I've been on some board or other every year except one since then. So I've had an awful lot of assistance and a lot of people taught me over a long period of time. And it's going to be a year of change, but that's just the way that it is sometimes. And so I'd hope everyone gives the new board, whoever it may be, their support and their assistance so that they can move forward and start to make things, or have things continue along as smoothly as they have gone. So hopefully a good year for everyone.
Right. So the ball is in the court of the remaining selectmen, and whoever gets elected, the other two that get elected. And I'd just like to say that it's my hope to keep the ball rolling in the right direction, and I wish you all the best of luck. We've got a lot of work to do, but we always will, and I think we can get it done. So I wish you all the best of luck. Okay, yes.
Well, you kind of took about 99% of what I was going to say. That's never bothered me before. Both of you gentlemen that are leaving the board have affected my husband and me. And as a result, since you're deserting the ship, and it may take months to get the smile off your faces, we both wanted to give you both a little thank you from Charlie and I, and wish you the very, very best.
Well, thank you.
Can I open it now? Can I?
Certainly.
I know everybody wants
It's a weekend boy.
It's
I
not
can
good.
actually you guys.
Should we do this?
Just do me a favor, don't drop it.
Yeah, don't drop
You know what I said is actually the worst thing you could say? Oh, no, isn't that nice?
You wouldn't know, you won't show us.
Yes.
Very nice.
Cross stitch for those that are.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate that.
Yes, and they, a very generous gift card to a restaurant. So that I can take the real mayor out to dinner.
Yeah, first question, what'd you do wrong?
If you go on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I know the show.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Any other business to come before the board? Go ahead.
I have a question. In regards to Mr. Collins' complaint, just for my own edification, did we authorize this while I was on vacation? That the fire department, or who authorized that?
Did we authorize it? No.
Who did?
I have no idea. We just sent out.
But I have 4 sheets of people who wanted to be in the parking lot. Of different people for the Saturdays,
Okay.
and I have them in there.
Okay, so they went through the proper procedure.
The mailing.
Solicitation.
It took me aback.
Yeah.
I just wondered, who paid for it, the town or
No.
the fire department or?
No.
The concerned citizens?
The town paid for it.
Yeah, of course, the town did. Okay.
Oh, they paid for the library.
No, they didn't. We paid for the library much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were given permission to use the town's, we call that the franking thing or whatever, but we paid for the entire building ourselves.
It's a permit. It's a permit. Yeah.
All right, well, if this was something that was paid for by the town, we will rectify it. We'll look into it and rectify it, okay?
There's one invoice in the manifest then that you need to pull.
The postage one is in their last manifest, you approved the payment of the actual printing.
Okay.
Not this one that we're about to deal with, but
That one has the postage one, but it's a reimbursement to the chief.
this one. Okay. Maybe since bookkeeper is here, you can show us exactly which one.
Under C for Preston. It was the committee, the fire department committee that worked on the
Is that the exact card that they're handing out? Down here, no additions?
It was the same one when I went, Trevor.
What?
It was the same one. They were passing out one out.
Okay, because they gotta be careful, they can't change that if they're,
They can't what?
they shouldn't be changing that adding stuff to it. They can get in trouble for that.
Okay, so just so people understand, and this is a public document that anyone can take a look at. This is an accounts payable request from Ralph Cresta, the police chief, in the amount of $375.36 for mailing the new fire station brochure. And it has not been approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Right, but the printing did, and you approved that before.
That's correct. Infinite Imaging was done during the last manifest.
Okay.
For $700 and some odd dollars.
Question, did it come out of the budget or did it come out of this pocket?
Come on, budget.
Came
That
out-
one,
His budget,
that one
the
came.
fire station's budget, it came out of. Don't be a problem.
That one
It's
came
illegal,
out
Bob.
of
No, it's
the
not.
Yes, it is illegal. It's clear as day.
Okay. So we will rectify that. And does anybody else have anything else they'd like to bring up?
I was gonna move to adjourn.
We
Your
do have
manifest, you have
Yeah,
to
okay.
manifest.
Right.
payrolls, especially.
But hold that motion. We'll get to it.
I'm waiting on it.
I gotta know.
Okay. So, the first manifest is general fund accounts payable. The original amount that we had been requested to approve was $504,638, of which $300,000 was transferred to the Greenland School District. I'd like to move that we amend the approval to $504,262.64, which simply excises $375.36 from the
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
How we doing?
I have a payroll manifest in the amount of $53,784.73.
Second. Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Where's this coming from?
That's for the board to ask.
Nothing.
It's up to the board. The library trustees have requested it comes from bond funds. They've not authorized it to come from the capital reserve fund.
Then I move we table that manifest.
Second.
Motion second, any question?
Yes, why are we tabling paying the bill?
Because I don't believe that's an appropriate account to pay the manifest from.
Which one should we be paying it from?
I'm not sure, I haven't even looked at the bill. But I don't believe we should be paying anything out of bond proceeds in light of everything we learned this evening.
I agree.
Right.
Still.
Okay,
Next meeting.
well, yes,
I just would like to add, I don't, this sounds mean, but it doesn't matter which account it comes from. However, the contract with East Valley Brunslinger does have a, if you don't pay it within 30 days, you could incur an interest charge. So I throw that out for your knowledge and your expertise and to assist you in your decision.
When would the 30 days expire, Liz?
When did it expire?
When would the 30 days for this particular
I
one?
believe it already has, if it's not real close, it should be from the date of the invoice. And I believe that one is dated 21 January, I think. It's the second invoice in that file.
it's dated January 21st.
Can't remember my own name, but it's the date.
Ron,
Yes,
I have a question. I asked earlier what the quiet title petition meant for going forward with anything with the library. I understand this is work that's already been completed, but the response I got from the board, because Vaughn gave me a response, no one disagreed with it, was that nothing, no building or other design work should go forward until we have that cleared up.
That's.
So,
I have
wait,
to-
I'm
I have
not,
to
can I
correct you,
finish,
Molly,
can
because
I finish my question, please? I'm not done.
No, just made a misstatement, I want to clarify it for you. He said no building can go forward.
No, I asked, he said nothing could go forward.
I think everything comes to a screeching halt here.
Right.
I mean,
I agree with that.
yeah.
And I wasn't referring to this because no, I understand this is work that's been done. But if you take that money out of the bond, then you're changing the status quo of being able to possibly not move forward or to have the flexibility to do what the town may need to do if you find out that we don't own the land. So if you're, don't take it out of the capital reserve fund, then I think you're disagreeing with the earlier statement you made that nothing should go forward.
I agree, and I'll sign it right now out of the capital reserve fund. I want to pay the bill. I don't
Can
want
I
to pay it out of the
can I
bond.
ask Mr. Ralston, why do you so insist in paying it out of the bond?
Why?
Why?
That's what the trustees requested, I'm
No,
not
but
insisting.
you've been insisting on every meeting that money be paid out of the bond.
Well, the taxpayers approved that.
They didn't, approve. You
No.
guys approved the payment with everything that's going on with that library.
And the trustees have to prove it to come out of the capital reserve fund.
All right,
They're not doing it.
all right,
No.
okay.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What about the $600,000 that they accumulated over the last
Yeah, that's
50
another
years?
capital reserve.
That's
That's
a capital reserve.
That's what they should be using.
Okay,
Ron,
yes.
excuse me. You also have an option of taking it out of the general fund. However, if you do take it out, I asked the auditor, so you can take this with whatever, I'm not really, that you can take it out of the general fund. However, you cannot use taking those funds out of the general fund. There's a reason why you don't meet your budgetary requirements to stay within that budget. So if you've got a $3 million budget, you can't say, well, we went over the 3 million because we took this out of the general fund. That being said, if you do that and you don't want to make any more payments, you need to somehow advise or suggest to the library trustees that they stop the contractor from proceeding. If you do that, then you have a possibility, there is a clause in the LaValle's contract that says that if you stop, then you are liable for the profit that he would have made had the project been completed. Okay, there are consequences to situations.
But that's if you stop completely.
Yes.
That's not if you,
No, not,
We're not stopping completely. We'll put it on the back burner until we figure out the disposition of the property. I mean, we're not stopping this.
I didn't say that
No,
I'm
no.
giving them options. That's not,
Okay, but nothing, until this is resolved, nothing further goes. This does not go any further until the land issue is resolved,
right.
okay? So,
So, we need to get all bills paid up to this point, and then that's it. That's what we're saying?
yeah,
Okay.
So-
All on the same page.
all right.
but
well,
both groups have to
there's-
agree to pay it.
Right, so I mean, I'll make a motion to pay it out of the capital reserve fund.
A motion, do I have a second?
I'm not here not to pay the bills of the town. The people that do the work, regardless if anybody agrees or
Well,
disagrees, should
didn't
get
you
paid.
already make a motion, what was your,
I made a motion to table,
all right. We have,
and that's when Liz advised us of the potential, there would be a potential interest charge.
right, yeah.
And I'm not sure whether my motion was seconded or not.
Yes, by Chester.
All right, well,
It was seconded, so
It's just not been voted on.
we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Table. Well,
And I suggest at that point it be referred back to the library trustees based on everything we now know. And they'll come back and the discussions will continue.
okay.
May I ask chairman of the trustees of the library, will you accept paying it out of the capital reserve fund so that the bill can be paid?
Which bill are we speaking about right now?
$3,914.
That is the one to Lavalley.
Yeah.
What happens if we don't?
They don't get paid for another 2 weeks
So
anyway.
what about Liz's, option to pay? I thought you said you could pay the general fund.
That is an option that the board has, according to the auditor.
Well, we have a motion, we have a second, we have a vote, so it's being tabled. Okay?
Okay.
Anything else anybody would like to discuss? All right, now, what was that you were saying earlier?
I want to adjourn.
All right.
Wait, before Marcia, I'm sorry, to keep going with it. I don't understand why we're holding up an invoice for the town to pay when we, why would we want to do that? When we have, if we can't get an option to, if we can't get agreement to pay it out of the capital reserve fund or pay it out of the bond, and Liz presented a third option, so if that came out of the general fund, Liz, would it comes out of the general fund for all time, or can you do accounting to be reimbursed out of one of those two other options later to reimburse
Yes, you
the
can
town?
always do that. You
So-
can always transfer money from one account to another.
Upon vote of the board.
Well, yeah,
Well, I make a motion that we have a rebuild on the payment of that bill.
Okay.
Yeah, I think technically you're saying bring it off the table.
That's a great idea, right?
Okay. Got a motion? Second?
Yeah.
This is the screwiest.
Yeah.
Long time. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Okay.
Okay.
That passed.
So
No,
now,
I would make a motion that we pay the bill out of the general fund and we fight over which fund it'll be reimbursed from later on when we get
Okay, I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Okay,
So under the selectmen's consultant line item,
that works.
we gotta pick a line item.
Sure, that works.
We don't have,
yeah,
It's a consult, I went consulted on it.
okay. So I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Quick, hurry. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
You're free of that.